Okay, so we are to the path of Wow, or the path of Vow, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it. Pathworking. And at this point in things, we are really moving past much complexity in these recordings. They basically are utilizing a lot of the audio technology that you've been exposing yourself to up until now, and guiding you towards sort of peak spiritual experiences that in certain contexts you're going to have more powerful experiences than others. But really at this point you're entering the recordings are shooting you towards the divine mind, and you are entering into it to the degree to which you have the capacity to do that. Looks like I lost another person here. It looks like it's Kevin. Well, that's unfortunate, since the two of them, or the three of them, are all on one thing. And that's okay, Juan. Don't worry about it. So, I know it's been a little bit of a break since we've last gotten together. I was quite busy over the month of October with various events that I was doing, and I was literally out of town every Sunday, and I couldn't get a decent wireless service. One of the motels I was staying at, I didn't even have internet at all, and the other one, it didn't seem like it was strong enough to bother with, and I didn't really know in advance, where I was going to be. So here we are. We've taken a break. Have people continued moving forward, or are you guys all still on the path of hay that we were working on last time? Either answer is fine. I am wanting to discuss the path of hay before we move on, but Zion, excuse me. We're moving faster than I was aware. Okay, good. So everyone's on Zion, and let's talk about experiences that people had with that path, if you recall them, since it's been so long. Alex says, I think Zion is Lamed on a different level. Yeah, I think that's probably true in some ways. Certainly, in the astrological correspondences of the paths, Zion is associated with Gemini, and Lamed is associated with Libra. So they are both air signs, and so connect in some way with the intellect and the mind and so forth. So I wonder, the Fool, which is the final path, the path of Aleph, is also associated with the element of air. I wonder if you'll find that there's some relation with that as well. And then, of course, the final air sign is... obviously I am tired because my brain's not working as well as usual. The final air sign is Gemini, Libra, and... where's your brain, buddy? Someone's going to type it in before it comes to my mind. Aquarius, of course. My daughter's an Aquarius. So an Aquarius with the path of the star. So I wonder if anyone has noticed a relationship between Zion, Lamed, and Tzadi, or the path of the star. Oh, Juan has mentioned, or someone on Juan's computer has mentioned, that Zion was done by each of them individually, and then they also listened to it in a trio as well. So, good. So people's specific experiences with Zion, other than the fact that it seems to be Lamed over again in some ways, which of course it is, because it has to do with balancing things out and connecting with opposites and so forth. Okay, so in Lamed, this is Alex speaking. In Lamed, I found that what I might call karma is generated by the interaction of my mind and my memory of senses, while in Zion I felt that all experiences of difference were merged. That's very interesting and appropriate kind of a realization. Robin? Juan? Brandine? Kevin? Any thoughts? Robin's curious what happened when you did it as a trio, whether that had an impact on things. Juan said that Zion felt like a marriage of all things, yeah, and that was pretty much the intention of it. And Brandine says that it was a blending of them together as one equal, which is, it's a kind of a fun thing, because, that recording actually is about a sacred marriage, and it is about specifically bringing in the polarities. And of course, Brandine and Kevin are a couple, and Juan is sort of a spiritual brother with them, and so if you think about the tarot card that's depicted, I don't think I have one near at hand, but there's, in most versions, there's a couple and then sort of an angel hanging out with them. So in some ways, they actually were kind of doing a dramatic enactment of it. Alex says there's a tremendous release of energy with Zion. Kevin says that the path took him to a place where he looked through the edge of a black hole, balancing all things in the universe. Excellent. Robin says, mainly a calm quietness each time I listen to the recording. And then Juan, I think, talking about my description of it as a dramatic reenactment, he says, too sweet. And Juan says to Robin, as a trio, we have been working on an inner temple we can share, and the group admitted to feeling a great sense of peace. And Robin says that after she did it, the whole week was followed by a great sense of peace, or the day/week. So good. And in fact, I hope that the rest of these recordings for the rest of this series are basically going to have that impact upon you, is bringing you to a place of peace and rest, a place of feeling connected to the universe, feeling that you are achieving your sense of a place for yourself, how you fit into the universe. The next several recordings, really all of them, basically are designed to bring you into a specific aspect of divine consciousness that are related to the Sephiroth, as well as the path energies combined together to create a specific kind of a sense of entity, which is related largely to the tarot cards, although not 100% directly. So let's move forward and start talking about the path of Wow, and that is connected to the astrological sign Taurus, and the card that is the tarot card that is associated with it is the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is obviously the Pope in some decks, and sort of the great connection point between the divine and the world. That's the sort of the the representative position of being the savior of the universe or so forth. Before I get into this too much, I just noticed that there's a little bit of comments on here that I want to read through. And Robin says, "Have wondered what would happen if one sharing experiencing the recording with others at the same time." Thank you, Juan, Kevin, Brendine. And Juan says, "One of the joys working with Zion was the ability to finally make peace or come to an understanding of many of my own dualities." Well, and in fact, I would say that's a lot of the purpose of these recordings in general, is to sort of help us to recognize the places in our consciousness in which we are making wars within ourselves, that aren't necessary. So the rest of these recordings, though, really don't deal with that issue anymore. They deal more with an aspect of what it is, the undivided universal expression, and how that reflects through a few different possibilities. And this particular one relates to the creator, in the sense of the crafter, the demiurge, the potter that molds the world, and that relates to the fact that it is the Taurus, which is an earth element astrological sign, and the Hierophant is not only a spiritual leader, but he's also a teacher and an initiator, someone who guides people along the path. And so the energy of the divine that is, archetypally represented by those various symbols is the crafter, the one who kind of makes things happen in its image. And we can stop here and we can say, oh, this is the end. We've reached the crafter, but ultimately that is only one aspect of the divine, and so that's the one that this one relates to. Now I'm going to look. People are making some comments. Alex says something about understanding wars inside himself that we make that are necessary but don't have to be hated. Excellent. It looks like some folks are commenting that they missed something that I said, which is unfortunate because I don't remember what it or know where it was that it froze up. So maybe you can tell me the last thing that you heard. It's clear on the recording, I'm sure, because it's a separate program that's doing the recording. So anyway, I'll just kind of reiterate what I was trying to get at, which is that the next 5 recordings that are left, or 6, really relate to the divine consciousness in several different functions. It's all the one divine consciousness, but in several different aspects. And this particular one, which is the one which is the most readily available, is that creator consciousness. And for those of you who are interested in biblical matters, it would be that part of the Genesis sort of creator demiurge quality, and in some spiritual traditions, it's actually considered to be a lower form or something like that. But we aren't going to get into that or worry about it too much. But it's that part of the divine consciousness that is creating things, that is reaching out and making things actively happen in the universe, and it is an all-knowing and all understanding consciousness, but at the same time it is operating within a set of rules, and it is simply just moving forward endlessly and tirelessly. So Juan says that he found Vow to be very divine in its order, much more so than our last Pathworkings. Alex asks Elohim. Juan says, oddly in Joy, I could see the crafter's hands as perfect and able, but could not forge a workable pot. That's interesting. Well, Juan, I want you to just turn yourself over to the crafter and not worry about your own abilities or challenges within that. Just within the context of this recording, just simply allow yourself to experience it rather than working through anything with it. Because at this point, the work that needs to be done is probably in the lower paths than this one. Alex says, isn't there something in Jeremiah about that? Yes, there probably is. And certainly the within Kabbalistic tradition, the idea of having trouble making the pots is actually something that created the universe as we know it. Alex says, is the clay going to turn around and ask what the potter is making? See, what I want you to do is I want you to just release yourself into the potter consciousness and not concern yourself with the process that's undergoing, because ultimately in that consciousness there is no concern over what is being created. It's simply being expressed, and there's no concern over it. Alex says, that's what Jeremiah said, I think, is the clay going to turn around and ask what the potter is making? Well, Jeremiah is very wise then. Brandine says, I have been more conscious of the dovetailing of strengths and weaknesses with all of us together, unity of purpose and helping each other. Excellent. So the next several recordings, the next several workings that you're going to be doing really are not about trying to fix elements of your personality or even to let go of things, so much as simply just allowing yourself to experience from a different perspective. And so it's got a different tone than the other recordings have had up until now. And I've kind of been in each class warning you that we were coming to this area. But so, I mean, in many ways, what I would like you to do is I would like you to just relax and allow the soundscaping that's going on in the background and your own experiences thus far to allow yourself to just sort of surrender and yield into this new frame of reference for things, and not worry about results or worry about where things are going, but just simply to just experience whatever comes up. Okay, so Alex says he doesn't want to derail things, but Jeremiah 18 is the chapter he was thinking of, and it's very good. Okay, yeah, excellent. I mean that it might be useful for those of you who enjoy biblical readings to actually take a look at that and see how it might relate to this path. There may be some deep relation, or there may not. So, just seeing if anyone's going to make any more comments. Basically, the essence of what I want you to do is just to, relax and go with the flow. Go with the flow that's created by all of the work that you've done so far. That is, because each recording now brings you through this process that has hopefully been becoming more and more powerful for you, the preliminary invocation, and then guides you through these sounds up through the tree of life. This one begins, I believe, in Chesed. So, you're going to go up through the majority of the things you've already been working on so far, all the way up to Chesed, and begin there in this very sort of lofty and divine, loving, all-loving place, and flow up there from there to Chokmah. I believe this is your first encounter with that Sephira, and so just allow yourselves to just simply go along for the ride, and if possible, to let go of Alex, let go of Juan, let go of Robin, let go of Brendine, let go of Kevin, let go of Rurik, let go of Alex, and just flow into the experience. And let there be no separate individual self experiencing it, but just experience being. So, Kevin says, when I did Zion this first time, or last time, I felt like that picture where the Kabbalist was peeking through the universe into the 99% being and the 1% reality. Alex says, yes, indeed. Alex says, yes, there was some of that already in Zion and Chesed. Yeah, I mean, that's what each of these is intending to kind of help you get a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer to that letting go of the limited self and allowing yourself to just simply be the experiencer. Robin asks a very interesting question. How do others go about allowing themselves to simply let go? Anything that works best for them? For me, it's contextual. If there's been a lot of stuff going on that would otherwise occupy my attention, like, for instance, stresses around family issues or finances or something along those lines, I might take a few minutes and just decompress and allow those things to process in my mind before I even begin, so that I'm not having those things operate as temptations. Juan says that he's learned relatively lately that it tends to mean to remove myself from the equation in most given circumstances. Alex says everything that arises can be dropped, and I find a physical feeling can be bootstrapped into doing it spiritually. Yeah, I mean, just sitting and, relaxing completely is the sort of easiest way of moving into that space. The challenge then is not to fall asleep. But if there's stuff that's holding you back, it's probably unprocessed material that needs to be worked on in one way or another. So Robin says, I try, yet can feel myself, in quotes, still being there, in quotes. Am often unable to completely let go of my surroundings totally. And Alex has an interesting reply. It's not letting go of the surroundings, but rather being all surroundings until there is no difference. Juan says, hidden fears and doubts. I mean, the thing is, Robin, there's really nothing to let go of per se other than a story. And you're only going to temporarily let go of that story. But I mean, there is the experience that you're having, whatever it is, and you're not going to, if you don't want that experience, then you need to do something different, like go for a run but you're sitting in a chair or laying on a bed or whatever the position that you're taking, and all that is true, and it's not going to cease to be true, other than if you just fall asleep and are having a dream. There are other components of your awareness that you can open up to, but there's no reason to feel like you have to lose awareness of yourself being in the room. There isn't a reason for that to not be a part of your awareness. You just wanted to open up to other awarenesses as well. Robin says, so allow myself to be absorbed by my surroundings. Alex says, there is no self and no surroundings. You can't allow anything because that which allows is not really different. I think Alex is really saying what he's saying is very accurate, but he might be confusing you a little bit. Basically, there's no reason to apologize, Alex. I just think that you understand it clearly, and when you understand things clearly, sometimes communicating with someone who's looking at it from a different perspective can be sort of a challenge. Brendine says, for me, practicing silencing the mind in meditation practice, the breathing exercises to clear the mind. Sure, and those are all excellent things, but what Alex is saying is actually the fundamental truth, and that is that there's no separate thing that needs to be taking place. There is no turning off one switch and turning on another switch. It's all part of the continuum of awareness, and there's no need to resist it or to try and have it be something different. Robin's saying, have become comfortable with the recordings to have no fear of experiencing them, yet seems like I'm unable to totally become part of the experience. But I guess what I'm trying to say, Robin, is just that you are having the experience. You're having the experience that you're having with them, and while you are wanting it to be a different experience is the challenge that's coming up for you. So just allow it to be the experience that it is, with no resistance to that, and it will open up to greater experiences, because it's not through seeking to find the different, better experience, but seeking to accept the experience that you're having that you're going to find yourself actually flowering. So just, if you're feeling uncomfortable, whatever, just be with that uncomfortableness. If you're feeling agitated, just be with that agitatedness. Don't worry about it. Don't feel like you need to fight it or to resist it or to turn it into something else. Have you listened to the next recording? Okay, yeah. I don't want you to feel intimidated by it in any way, because it's a very pleasant recording, and as are all the rest of them from here on out. There's no more like challenging your, picadillos and whatever that are going on in your consciousness. It's just simply no more heads chopped off. It's all just sort of flowing into experiential oneness with the universe. And the thing is that's a principle, that's an idea, it's a word concept. But the reality is that all that you're being asked to do is to just simply experience what is. There's no need to do something different than what is. And just allow yourself to flow with the recordings however you do, and you're going in the right direction. Right, it is like enjoying poetry. Poetry, it is ultimately, an expression of the same sort of, divine isness. Good poetry, anyway. Alex says, you do the same thing as when you're reading poetry. That makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it's a little different than when reading poetry, but fairly similar in some ways. In a way, I've always thought of these modern spiritual organizations as being poems. By modern spiritual organizations, I mean like the Theosophical Society, or hold on a sec. You got to go talk to mommy about that. I'm in the middle of something right now. That sounded pretty terrible. I feel bad throwing that in my wife's direction, but apparently my 2-year-old took off her diaper and peed on the floor. But so anyway, the more modern spiritual organizations like the Theosophical Society and the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley's AA, these are things that were created from a literary document. This is what we imagine an organization could be like, that would be a beautiful thing that would transform the world in some wonderful way. And the people who are in modern times trying to actually make those things happen are in many ways just simply trying to take this poem and turn it into an actual garden, but maybe it can and maybe it cannot be. Alex says Aleister Crowley used to take his diaper off and pee on the floor all the time. That could be true. I don't know. So Robin says, guess I thought I had gotten to that point of just being and allowing things to just be, yet I'm still finding myself overthinking things maybe. Yeah, I mean, that may be the case, Robin. And even overthinking things, that's okay too. Just allow yourself to go with the flow for now. We're gonna work on some other things. Yeah, I agree with Alex. He says, in my opinion, Robin, you're being too hard on yourself. Um, you know, this pathworking program, I think, has been very successful with all of you, and I think that all of you have had a lot of excellent transformations and a lot of excellent insights into yourselves. So I think that it's important to just acknowledge yourself for that, and not to worry about the areas where you're still coming up against challenges, because we all have them. There's not a single one of us. Some of us have babies that are peeing on the floor, and some of us have other problems. But you're doing well. And let me see what other people are saying here. Juan says, Robin, remember, this is only our first trip, and you are bound to do this pathworking a few times, my sweet sister. Yeah, I mean, this is only one way of approaching things too. There's whole other pathworking practices. There are specific mystical practices involving devotion, or involving mantra, or involving ritual, or involving concentration exercises. What we're doing is just one approach to exploring things, and I think that it's made some excellent changes in all of you. Alex says, success is just declaring success. Failure is just declaring failure. Yeah, and I think that that is a very true statement, Alex, especially in spiritual matters. It certainly is possible to declare success prematurely and limit oneself, but yeah, I think that's very true. Have I lost another person? Maybe not. I feel like there was maybe Kevin, your thing finally turned off or something. So, my friends, I think we have talked about this very simple, pleasant path. Watch you guys all come back and go, my gosh, it was the scariest thing I've ever had to do. I think we've talked about this as much as needs to be talked about. My plan at this time, unless I discover that I'm otherwise engaged, is to schedule another one for next week. So go ahead and start working on this, because we're only going to do it for a week, and hopefully there may be 1 week where I'm not able to do it, but I think that I am pretty clear on Sundays, and we'll probably be doing this weekly until we're done, and then we can move on to other projects. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to talking to you next time, and I will try to get this recording up later this afternoon so you can listen to it all again. Alex wants to share the wisdom that baking soda and water is good for getting pee out of a carpet. Thank you, Alex, for that. And I'll see you all next week.